Chapter 1. High in the sky, a white-hot sun beat down upon the verdant valley. No strips or smears of white marred the blue expanse. Dry heat was part of the range and baked itself into the black soil, the gray rocks, and the horns of the cattle. Heat wrapped itself around a body and made itself known. Sitting upon a red roan and flanked by a few miles of grass, Picou watched over her herd as a mother would her children. "Where I come from," she muttered, "all these animals would 'a' drowned, or their hoofs would 'a' rot off." She sat low in the saddle with her hat tilted back, and she rested her hands on the horn as her eyes roamed steady and watchful. The ridges in the distance danced in the heat. Thick leather crunched under her weight, while sweat pooled at the nape of her neck. She flicked thoughtlessly at a horsefly. Despite the rewards, the challenges of cattle often irked her. Riding herd, foaling, branding, keeping the hungry wolves at bay. Ada had to admit that it was easier here in the dry hills of New Mexico, though. Raising cattle in a swamp was a nightmare. She missed Louisiana, but not the farm where water crept up through the ground into the cattle's hooves. Cattle were constantly getting themselves mired and would find themselves stuck and bawling for aid. There was too much rain to work in. Everything happened in fits and starts. Water seeped into everything they owned. It dripped into the house, it came up from the floorboards, and it soaked any hay her pa forgot to store in the loft. Ada recalled her pa's dark, wet saddle drying by the fire. In her youth, she would wait by the hot stove, eager with the oil. Rubbing in the oil was one of her favorite chores. She worked every inch of the leather, softening it and filling the house with the smell of warm oil. "Better'n chasing off coons and a possum," she said to herself while reminiscing. They lost calves when the river came up, and occasionally there were alligators. Mostly they stayed in the water, but sometimes they waddled up and ripped a cow from the herd. It was a terrifying sight. The cow would scream and bray, eyes white with terror, and with froth flying as the alligator would flip and turn in the act of snapping its prey's tendons and bones. Ada cottoned more to wolves. Definitely wolves over gators, she mumbled as she spotted a large gray wolf that loped by the eastern flank of cattle. A few others followed their leader. "This pack was getting daring," she said under her breath. Ada slowly squeezed off a shot and dropped one wolf. The others scattered. It was not the leader, but still a threat. While she rode herd, Ada thought of the skin and what she would make. Coming up to it, she found the small wolf too skinny for much and decided upon a satchel. The cattle were nervous and restless. "All right," she sighed. "I'll get it out of here." Even a dead wolf kept the cattle jittery. None of the herd settled until she had it tied to the roan's haunches and started packing it back to her building. "Got a wolfskin here," Ada hollered for William as she carried the carcass over her shoulder around the back of the small shelter. William was preparing a foundation for what would one day hopefully be a smokehouse. He whistled and smiled. "Good shot," he said as he tilted his hat back and sat on his heels. "I'll clean it," he offered. "Nah, I got it. Go ride the line for a bit." Ada tossed her head back over her shoulder, indicating to the cattle. "All right then, I'll leave you to it." He adjusted his hat. There was a moment of silence as she untied the carcass. They looked each other in the eye, and William smiled before glancing away. Ada frowned slightly. "You smile too damn much, William," Ada said as she stabbed into the belly of her kill. William laughed quietly before sauntering toward his horse.